In 2009, a new deep-sea exploration company was founded in Everett, Washington. Its name was OceanGate, and its mission sounded bold, futuristic, and almost heroic. In the art and to make the deepest parts of the ocean accessible to civilians, not just scientists. The company was led by a man named Stockton Rush, an aerospace engineer who believed that the future of exploration was not in space, but in the ocean. Rush often said that more people have been to space than to the bottom of the ocean. And he wanted to change that. OceanGate presented itself as a revolutionary business. A company that would take wealthy explorers, researchers, and filmmakers to places humans had barely seen, including the remains of the RMS Titanic, sitting more than 12,000 feet below the surface. At first, the idea attracted curiosity, investors, and media attention. It was marketed as a new era of adventure tourism, not just looking at the ocean but entering it. In the early years, OceanGate operated small submersibles and conducted shallow dives, mostly for testing and demonstration. The company promoted the idea that commercial deep-sea travel would soon become as normal as space tourism. But behind the scenes, there was another reality. OceanGate faced slow progress, financial pressure, and most importantly, technical warnings. Engineers questioned the safety of the materials being used. And experienced submarine pilots raised concerns about certification. But these warnings did not stop the founder. Instead of slowing down, he pushed forward faster. OceanGate wasn't just trying to explore the ocean. It wanted to prove everyone else wrong, especially the traditional submarine experts who said the design was risky. And so, the company began working on a new vessel, one that would define its legacy. A submersible named Titan. In 2009, a new deep-sea exploration company was founded in Everett, Washington. Its name was OceanGate, and its mission sounded bold, futuristic, and almost heroic. In the art and to make the deepest parts of the ocean accessible to civilians, not just scientists. The company was led by a man named Stockton Rush, an aerospace engineer who believed that the future of exploration was not in space, but in the ocean. Rush often said that more people have been to space than to the bottom of the ocean. And he wanted to change that. OceanGate presented itself as a revolutionary business. A company that would take wealthy explorers, researchers, and filmmakers to places humans had barely seen, including the remains of the RMS Titanic, sitting more than 12,000 feet below the surface. At first, the idea attracted curiosity, investors, and media attention. It was marketed as a new era of adventure tourism, not just looking at the ocean but entering it. In the early years, OceanGate operated small submersibles and conducted shallow dives, mostly for testing and demonstration. The company promoted the idea that commercial deep-sea travel would soon become as normal as space tourism. But behind the scenes, there was another reality. OceanGate faced slow progress, financial pressure, and most importantly, technical warnings. Engineers questioned the safety of the materials being used. And experienced submarine pilots raised concerns about certification. But these warnings did not stop the founder. Instead of slowing down, he pushed forward faster. OceanGate wasn't just trying to explore the ocean. It wanted to prove everyone else wrong, especially the traditional submarine experts who said the design was risky. And so, the company began working on a new vessel. one that would define its legacy. A submersible named Titan. This was not just another underwater vehicle. It was advertised as the future of deep-sea travel, built from experimental carbon fiber, controlled not by a professional navigation system, but by a $30 wireless gaming controller. Investors were impressed, experts were concerned, and yet, the project moved forward. Titan was promoted as a craft capable of reaching the Titanic wreck again and again, carrying paying passengers for $250,000 per seat. But before the world would ever hear the name Titan, there were early missions, early test dives, early warning signs, and every one of them was ignored. Before OceanGate ever attempted a mission to the Titanic, the company needed to test its new submersible, Titan, in deep water. These early expeditions were meant to prove the vessel was safe, stable, and strong enough to survive the crushing pressure of the deep ocean. But from the very beginning, Titan was different from every certified submersible in the world. Most deep-sea submarines are built with steel or titanium. Titan, instead, used a carbon fiber hull, a material never approved for extreme depth passenger use. Carbon fiber is strong, lightweight, and commonly used in aerospace. But experts repeatedly warn that it behaves unpredictably under cyclical pressure, the kind you face every time you dive thousands of feet underwater. One of the first major warnings came from a man named David Lockridge, OceanGate's director of marine operations. After inspecting Titan, he wrote a formal report saying the sub had serious safety flaws, including NDBR-10 no real scan to detect cracks in the carbon fiber, and DDR-10 no industry standard certification, and DR-10 a window only rated for 1,300 meters, while the Titanic sits at 3,800 meters. NDR-TR no emergency escape capability. Lockridge told OceanGate leadership that the vessel could fail catastrophically at depth. Instead of investigating his concerns, the company fired him and sued him for violating confidentiality. He responded with a counter-lawsuit, claiming he was dismissed for speaking up about passenger safety. NDBR-10. He was not the only one. Multiple professional submarine experts warned that Titan was unsafe, including leaders from the Marine Technology Society. They sent a letter directly to the CEO saying, "Your experimental approach could result in negative outcomes, from minor to catastrophic." But OceanGate rejected traditional safety standards. In fact, the company publicly stated that industry regulations slowed down innovation, and that being outside certification was a competitive advantage. To many, this was a red flag. BBR to Arshan to OceanGate. It was branding. PBGARNT, and yet, test dives continued. Early missions showed visible damage to Titan's hull. Each dive caused pressure fatigue, microscopic weakening in the carbon fiber shell. After one expedition, the vessel needed major repairs. The TBR SIL, OceanGate kept pushing for the ultimate mission, the Titanic. Rich clients signed up. PBR sent. The media praised the company as pioneers. PBR documentary crews filmed promotional videos. The price of a seat was set at $250,000. But every time Titan went deeper, something new went wrong. NDBR deeper battery failures, NTR thruster issues, NDR communication dropouts, NDR scans, hull deformation, and NDR dunt. One passenger from an earlier dive described the experience as terrifying, like being trapped in a cold coffin in the dark. Another passenger said that before entering the sub, he was asked to sign a waiver that mentioned death 3 separate times on page 1, and BR and OceanGate knew the risks. The passengers were warned. In BR the experts had spoken. IDR but the Titanic mission was scheduled anyway. In June 2023, Titan prepared for its most dangerous dive yet. A full descent to the Titanic, nearly 13,000 feet below the surface. Aboard were 5 people, including the founder Stockton Rush himself. It would be Titan's final journey. On June 18, 2023, the submersible Titan prepared for what OceanGate called a historic expedition, a descent to the wreck of the RMS Titanic, resting 12,500 feet below the surface of the North Atlantic. The entire mission was designed to last just a few hours, but it would become one of the most followed rescue operations in modern history. Aboard Titan were 5 passengers: Tim DBR Stockton Rush, CEO and pilot NDR Hamish Harding, British billionaire and adventurer, and Shahzada Dawood, prominent Pakistani businessman, and DBR Sulman Dawood, his 19-year-old son, joining him for Father's Day. NDR Paul-Henri Nargeolet, a veteran Titanic explorer with over 30 dives to the wreck. NDR each had signed a waiver acknowledging the risk of serious injury or death. For some, this was a lifelong dream, but for others, a final adventure. For one passenger, the teenager on board, it was reported he was afraid but joined the mission to make his father proud. Real events confirmed by mission logs. Titan was sealed from the outside with 0 a.m. Titan was sealed from the outside with 17 bolts, meaning no one inside could ever open it on their own. At 8:15 a.m., a support ship Polar Prince lowered the sub into the ocean. At 9:45 a.m., Titan began its descent, a slow fall into complete darkness. Communication was maintained through text messages, one every 15 minutes. The passengers sat inside a cramped, windowless tube. No seats, no lights, no bathroom. Just a single small viewport and a video screen showing depth. In BDR inside, oxygen was limited. In BDR just 96 hours, 4 days of air. The moment contact was lost. At 10:45 a.m., Titan was nearly 10,000 feet deep. A final message was received, then silence. The submersible stopped responding. No distress signal, no emergency beacon, no communication, just nothing. The surface crew tried calling again. No response. For the next several minutes they waited, then panicked. The mission was now officially a missing submersible emergency. At that depth, the passengers were trapped in total darkness, with no ability to return to the surface on their own. If Titan was still intact, they had less than 4 days of oxygen left. But if something else had happened, there was no way to know what was happening inside Titan. No one alive witnessed it, but experts agree, if Titan failed, it would not have been slow. At that depth, the pressure is 6,000 pounds per square inch, more than 400 times the pressure at sea level. A structural failure would not cause flooding, it would cause an instant implosion, faster than the human brain can process. But on the surface, no one knew that yet. Families believed the passengers were still alive. Rescue teams were told they had 96 hours to find them. The world began counting down. What followed was a massive global search effort and a media storm that turned into a race against time. When Titan stopped responding on June 18, 2023, a massive international rescue effort began. The United States Coast Guard, the U.S. Navy, the Canadian Coast Guard, and specialized deep-sea units from France and the United Kingdom all joined the search. The problem was simple and terrifying. The ocean is enormous. The sub was tiny, and no one knew where it was. Titan had no GPS underwater, no sonar beacon, no automatic emergency release system. If lost, it was blind and silent. The 96-hour countdown. Authorities told the world the sub had approximately 96 hours of breathable air. This gave the media a storyline, a countdown to death. Every TV channel showed a timer. 72 hours left, 48 hours left, 20 hours left, 10 hours left. Families waited. Rescuers searched. Millions watched live updates hoping for a miracle. But behind the scenes, there was something the public didn't know yet. The U.S. Navy had already detected something. On day 1, on June 20, search teams reported banging noises underwater every 30 minutes, like someone knocking on metal from the inside. For many, this was a sign the passengers were still alive. News headlines exploded, tapping sounds detected, survivors may be signaling. Family members later said this gave them hope, but some experts warned, sound underwater can travel from anywhere. It didn't guarantee survival, and they were right. Those sounds were never confirmed to be human, and were later believed to be unrelated. But at the time, the world held its breath. A global rescue that cost millions. Ships, aircraft, and deep-sea robots searched an area the size of Connecticut. The French Navy sent a special diving robot called the Victor 6000, one of the few vehicles capable of reaching Titanic depth. But every hour mattered. If the sub was still intact, oxygen was running out. Families were told, "We are doing everything we can." News channels repeated, "They have only 24 hours left." Social media began posting survival theories. Documentary channels posted possible escape plans. Millions followed the story like a live thriller. But while the world was watching the rescue, some people already suspected the truth. The Navy's secret knowledge. Hours after Titan disappeared, the U.S. Navy detected a sound near the Titanic wreck. A sudden, violent acoustic anomaly, the signature of a catastrophic implosion. But this information was not released to the public, not until after the search ended. For nearly 4 days, the world believed the passengers might still be alive. But the Navy already knew what most didn't. The sub had likely been destroyed minutes after losing contact. Still, the search continued, not for survivors, but for answers. And on June 22nd, they found them. On June 22, 2023, 4 days after Titan disappeared, a remotely operated vehicle finally reached the ocean floor near the wreck of the Titanic. What it found was not a rescue opportunity. It was a debris field. Pieces of the Titan submersible were discovered scattered across the seabed, roughly 1,600 feet away from the Titanic's bow. The findings confirmed what the U.S. Navy suspected from the beginning. Titan had imploded deep underwater. There was no wrecked capsule, no trapped survivors, no air supply running out. The event was sudden, violent, and instant. The passengers never felt the pain of drowning or suffocation. It was over in a fraction of a second. What actually happened? At a depth of 12,500 feet, the pressure is 6,000 psi, the equivalent of a 35-story building smashing down on every square inch. If the hull failed even slightly, the collapse would be immediate. A catastrophic implosion doesn't cause water to slowly leak in. The sub is crushed in milliseconds, faster than the brain can register fear. Experts estimate the human body would be vaporized by heat, pressure, and force before nerves could react. For the passengers, death was not slow. It was instantaneous. The announcement. The Coast Guard held a press briefing. A single sentence confirmed the end. The debris is consistent with a catastrophic loss of the pressure chamber. The rescue mission, that had been broadcast to the world, was no longer a rescue. It was now recovery. Families were informed privately. The public was informed live. The world paused. The countdown clock stopped, not because time ran out, but because there was no one left to save. Some family members released emotional statements. Others stayed silent. The mother of the teenage passenger later said, "He was so excited, but he was terrified. He went only because he didn't want to disappoint his father." Friends of the victims posted tributes, shared memories, and expressed disbelief. Media outlets that spent days tracking oxygen now shifted to explaining how it ended so fast. The tragedy was no longer a mystery. It became a warning about technology, risk, ego, exploration, and the ocean's unforgiving power. The moment the implosion was confirmed, the world's attention shifted from "Will they survive?" Picard percent to "How could this have happened?" Because in the days that followed, something became very clear. In Narration, this wasn't just a tragedy, it was a preventable tragedy. The warnings ignored, and within hours, former OceanGate employees and deep-sea experts came forward. And their claims were explosive. Engineers who worked with OceanGate said they warned the company for years that the Titan's carbon fiber hull was unsafe. One former employee, David Lockridge, even filed a formal safety complaint, and was later fired for refusing to approve the sub. He claimed the viewport was only rated for 1,300 meters, not 4,000 meters. He said the company was rushing to market and ignoring stress test requirements. NDR did OceanGate's response. They called industry experts too conservative. NDR sent. They said innovation required breaking rules. They even advertised Titan as being built with SpaceX-style engineering. But the ocean is not space. There are no second chances at 12,500 feet below sea level. Narration, who is responsible? After the implosion, US, Canadian, British, and French authorities opened joint investigations. But there was a complication. Everyone on board had signed an extreme liability waiver, acknowledging the possibility of serious injury, emotional trauma, or death. The waiver even mentioned the risk of being crushed. So legally, OceanGate may not be held criminally responsible. But morally, a different story. Even with the waiver, multiple families hired attorneys. Some legal teams argue, the waiver becomes invalid if gross negligence is proven. OceanGate ignored known safety failures. and Titan was not certified by any marine safety agency. The company misled customers by calling the sub safe to Arsent. And then there's the 19-year-old passenger, who may not have been legally able to sign a waiver as a minor in some countries. And BR alone could break the defense. Lawsuits could take years, but they will be massive. What investigators discovered in Bidardent, when debris was lifted to the surface, investigators confirmed the carbon fiber hull failed from material fatigue and the pressure cycling from repeated dives weakened the structure. NDRSM microscopic cracks expanded under deep sea pressure. The failure point was sudden, but not unpredictable. NBR experts now say Titan didn't fail on its first dive. It failed after repeated stress, and no one cared enough to stop it. Some say it wasn't just a disaster, it was inevitable. OceanGate within days. Within days the company took down its website. Weeks later, it officially shut down all operations. OceanGate is gone. PBR sent, but the questions aren't. NDR sent, will deep-sea tourism continue? NDR billionaires still want to go deeper. People still want to see the Titanic. NBR sent. But after Titan, every government in the world now demands new safety regulations. Some experts even want deep-sea tourism banned completely. NDR sent, the ocean, they argue, is not a playground. It is the most hostile environment on Earth. NDR sent, space is safer than the deep sea. At least in space, you can be rescued. The legacy of Titan NTR 5 people died. Submarine, a company collapsed. But the story left something behind. A lesson. BDR and a warning. A reminder that the ocean is patient, and it always wins. The Titan was named as a symbol of strength, but the sea showed the world the truth. NDR human ambition has a limit. NDR 12 and 12,500 feet below the surface. NDR sat limit is absolute.